Week 14 is coming up, and it's time to get back into our power rankings. We took last week off with the holidays being there. It just got to be a rather crowded week, so we're back to things now. And after 2 weeks, there's a bit of movement, a bit of development. Things have changed a little bit, although I don't think the tier list is going to get moved on its, stood on its head or anything like that. You ready to do this thing, Michael?
Yeah, let's jump in. I'm ready.
All right, cool. Well, folks, welcome. This is We Are the Game. I'm Luke, and that's Michael, and we're going to get into our power rankings for upcoming into Week 14. So we're using the tier list tier maker. We're going to go based on where we were 2 weeks ago when we stopped. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, ate a lot of turkey and all that good stuff. This is where we ended with things, and there had been a little bit of change at least. So we're going to get started with the AFC, and we're going to start with the North, which I'll just jump right into and then get Michael's thoughts on. So I feel like after 2 weeks, I was kind of hoping there'd be some real solidification, or one of these teams would jump up and just take control. But that hadn't quite happened. I do think that right now, the Ravens are playing a little bit better than the Steelers, but it's not just dominantly better than I thought they might do over the course of the last couple of weeks if they really caught their stride. But they have technically taken that division for the moment with the tiebreaker with the Steelers. And the Steelers just don't look quite right. They just go, one of their losses was a very ugly loss to Buffalo. They're just not playing like the Steelers that we expect to see. So right now, I'm kind of expecting them to be on the outside looking out when the end of the season really hits us. So other than that, you've got the return of Joe Burrow had a positive impact, or rather predictable positive impact to the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm ready to move them up a little, but like here. But as we said with other teams like the Ravens in the past, I wish I could put a little arrow on them as well, suggesting that they didn't just move up, but they're moving up a little bit. Will they climb back into real relevance? Seems like a long shot, but they're in the right division for that. So because their division hasn't just jumped out of things, and there's the potential for a 9-8 team to maybe do that. Like, it's not going to happen in the NFC West. The 9-8 team is just doomed. Like, you're just going to get a really bad draft pick. 9-8 at this point, 4 or 5 weeks out, it's theoretically possible. So Bengals, you've still got a shot, and with Joe Burrow back, and with your defense not playing like the trash it was playing like at the beginning of the season, you've at least got a shot. The Browns are still the Browns, but they have kind of, oddly enough, they seem to have improved. I'll just say improved. They haven't found something special. I won't go that far, but they have improved ever so slightly on defense. And on top of that, they have a schedule that will permit them to maybe win a game or two closing out. So I actually think the Browns are going to climb out of top 10 pick. And of course, they still have the most exciting player in football, in my opinion. I'm just going to move them up right about here. They're about the same with the Falcons. You could move the Falcons in front of them with whatever if you wanted. But they're playing a little better. And if Shedeur wins this week, I believe they're playing the Jets this week. I've lost track, but I believe they're playing the Jets. If they win that game, they will have won 2 out of 3 starts for Shedeur Sanders. And that storyline, top 10 picks by the end of the year. But I mean, that's playing themselves into like 11 or 12 or something. So anyways, what do you think, Michael? After 2 weeks, am I overreacting, seeing something a little different than you would?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I agree with your assessment that, you can only have one of those two teams, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, in the playoff teams area. And it definitely feels like Baltimore is playing better football. These two teams play each other again coming up. And I think that'll be a real moment to maybe switch this right back around. Who knows? But yeah, I'm still not overwhelmed by either team. But no, I agree with that. Overall, the Bengals are kind of like the Cowboys in many ways, kind of a bit of a long shot. It's exciting to see Joe back, and boy, did he have an impact. I don't just think he impacted the offense. I think he passively impacted the defense as well, with them not being on the field as much. I think that he's a welcome sight back there. But yes, I still think even with that, they're a slow rise out of this bucket. Yeah. And then Browns, same. They're a lot of fun to watch on defense. Their offense is a little bit better maybe overall as well. So, but yeah, let's leave them there. They've still got a lot to prove overall.
Yeah, quick correction. They're not playing the Jets this week. The Browns are playing the Titans. So my bad there. I knew it was a team that was
Yeah.
relatively vulnerable, but
Yeah.
but we'll see. It's a good opportunity for either team to try to get out of the basement ever so slightly. So, all right. Well, then after that, take us east then to the AFC East. Tell me what you think about those 4 teams.
No, I think the hottest team in football lives there. The New England Patriots are just cruising. 10-game win streak is pretty wild. We were talking a little bit about, some of the strength of schedule for them. You play the teams that you're given, and that's just the way it is. That is the only reason that I'm a little hesitant still to move them up to Super Bowl favorite. They just keep winning games. And they win in fairly compelling fashion. Like, they should beat the Giants, and they beat the daylights out of the Giants. I'm still a moment away, I think, from moving them up there. But I kind of feel like of the teams that are up there, they probably deserve to be. I just can't quite do it yet. So I'm going to hold off.
Okay.
Maybe that's too mean. I'm sure you'll tell me in a second.
Cool.
Buffalo's still there. They pull out a win, and that's good. Like, they need some of that get right play. It was pretty convincing win against Pittsburgh. But I don't see them as better than any of the teams that are left. I actually don't know that I think that they're really playing better than Seattle. I'll probably move them to the right one. Not because they did anything wrong, but I just think that Seattle is still playing overall better football at the moment. Give Buffalo a chance to go a couple of weeks and see how they end up. But yeah, right now I think that's kind of how I see Buffalo fitting within that grouping of teams there. Next up is Miami. Miami has won 3 in a row. They all of a sudden look kind of, for lack of better terms, resurgent. In another division, I think this would matter a lot. In this division, I think it's nice. It's nice for the coach to retain his job. But I think that's pretty much what they're kind of playing for, is that kind of stuff. I think at this moment and how they're currently playing, I would put the Dolphins in front of the Vikings. I don't know that I would put their bet on them against the Bengals at this point, but I would put them probably in front of the Vikings. And then last and certainly least of the 3 is the New York Jets. Pull off a win. They do look better with Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So who knows? They may sneak a few wins and mess all of this number 1 pick consideration all up. But for the moment, I would move the Jets in front of actually, I probably would move them into the pick 6 through 10. I think the trajectory with Tyrod Taylor for them may push them out of this whole consideration, put them at the very tail end of this. We'll see. We'll see how they play that this upcoming week. But that's how I see it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's about right. And similar, we talked about the Dolphins, and again, kind of how we talk about the Bengals and the Ravens. Before that, there's the whole trending up thing. I wish we could put on top of it. They keep winning their games. They've won their last 3 and their last 5 games. The Jets, Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, Patriots. That's a relatively winnable schedule. There's some tough games in there at the end, but at the same time, it's not like, oh man, you're playing against Philly and the Colts and the Rams and the Seahawks or something like that. Like, it's winnable games. And so if they want to have some miracle shot of making the playoffs at the end of the season, it's there to be had. I do think that they need to be playing a little bit better, actually, than they are. Because, yes, they've won their previous games, but, I mean, they beat the Commanders by 3. They beat the Saints by 4 off of some miraculous nonsense. So they need to improve their play a little bit, but they are trending up. So credit where credit's due. Jets probably did play themselves out of top 5 pick, but it's still close. Excuse me.
Yeah.
As for the top teams, yeah, Buffalo is still kind of on the verge of slipping, it feels like, but them being right there with Detroit and Tampa, who I would describe similarly, makes total sense to me. And I probably have slightly less. I have fewer misgivings on the Patriots than you do, but I get it. I get the whole, like, there's still who have they played. Even looking at the playoff teams that they have played this season, they're not the most impressive playoff teams frequently. So we'll see. They're going to get their shot in the playoffs to prove everyone wrong. And it's not like the top of Super Bowl contenders is a big insult. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. So, all right. Well, East out of the way. Let's go South then and tell us about that one. It's becoming a pretty competitive division.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Cinderella story, I mean, it's still funny. We're seeing Houston resurge. They're coming up now. 4-game win streak. They're looking much, much better, much more fluid as a team. Can they sustain that pace, retake the division? Very possibly. I still think right now they're in this missing playoffs kind of thing. It's how long can they sustain that, especially when they come back around against Indy and Jacksonville, or Jacksonville, I should say, because they just played with Indy. But I think that's going to be very interesting to see if they can hold on. Indianapolis looks like they're reeling. I kind of feel like they remind me very much, ironically, of the Eagles. I feel like the two of these teams are in a very similar position. They've been knocked down. Can they get back up? But for right now, I'm ready to move the Colts out of this Super Bowl favorites and move them down probably right in that Lions and Bills area. I think that they're a great team. They're in this conversation, but all of a sudden they've been exposed a bit, and they need to kind of figure some things out. One of the challenges to this time of year is everybody's playing really tough competition. Not everybody, but most teams playing some really tough competition these last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
The positive of that is you have a chance to tool for the playoffs and to understand your opponents and this level of competition, find those weaknesses and move on. I think that they're hopefully doing that as well. Jacksonville is the climber here. Jacksonville beat up Tennessee this last week. That's not a lot to hang your hat on, but it's still their trend. They're trending upward. So I'd actually like to move Jacksonville up into the playoff teams. I would move them in front of Baltimore right now. Right in there with Kansas City. Kansas City, I think, yeah, well, I'll leave Kansas City to you.
Yeah.
And then last and certainly least is Tennessee. Tennessee is handling business on this first pick consideration.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the best thing for them as an organization. I know that's tough as a fan. Nobody wants to see their team have a 1-win season at this point. They may sneak out another one or two, but they're definitely figuring a lot of things out. I expect some significant changes next year. But yeah, that's where I see those teams. What do you think about that as far as like shaking things up a bit?
Yeah, a lot of that makes sense to me. So, pardon me. The Colts kind of need to come down. And in the last 2 weeks that we haven't been doing this, well, I mean, since 2 weeks ago when we did this, they've lost both games. So it makes sense for them to come down a bit. They've lost both games against playoff contending teams. And that's kind of on its own. That's just enough that I was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, you win a lot of games. It'd be like the Patriots, but when the Patriots play against playoff teams, they lose, but they're good against teams like the Cardinals or the Falcons or whoever. So yeah, they've shaken my faith in them just a little bit, and a lot since the beginning of the year when they look like just absolute juggernauts. But yeah, it makes sense. That division is really warring it out really hard, and we're going to find out who the better team is at some point. If you had told me at the beginning of the year the most competitive and maybe borderline best division in football would be the AFC South, I definitely would not have believed you. Yeah. So impressed by a lot of teams. The return of CJ Stroud seems to have helped the Texans, although I will say he doesn't look quite right just yet. But yeah, so the AFC South is fun. I think if it were me, I'd probably move the Texans into like potential wild cards, like maybe outside looking in. But I do think that they're playing pretty well on defense in particular. They don't have a Myles Garrett, but I believe statistically their defense is playing better than Cleveland's even, which is wild. So
yeah, as well.
And so if their offense can just be respectable, then they might. That'll be what gives them a chance. So we'll see. But yeah, the AFC South is surprisingly entertaining. And then the Titans, yeah, they are on the right track, and they need to stay right where they are. This whole like lose out, only get one win. It sounds bad, but your strength of schedule is good enough. I'm looking at Tankathon. If they win one game, they probably go from the first pick to the fourth pick. If they win one more game, theoretically, and the other teams that are near them lose out because of their strength of schedule. So guys, just stay on it. I know it's rough. It's the same thing I'm wishing for my Cardinals right now, but like, just keep losing. It will do you a world of good later on. So yeah. All right. Well, good times. Well, let's head out to the West then and talk about the
Yeah.
old AFC West. So this division is a bit frustrating. Um, the Denver Broncos still look like the clear, obvious favorite. They win close games like this last one against Washington, but I don't always have great faith in them. Like this whole winning by
Yeah.
1 point thing, you think that you can't do that forever, right? But maybe they will. The Chiefs did it for a long period of time, and now that's finally chickens to come home to roost, so to speak. There, but the Broncos just seem to be that team. Their defense still plays really well most of the time. I know that they allowed some points against the Commanders, but over the course of the season, they're still showing that they're a phenomenal defense. So we'll see. I'm not kind of like the Patriots, but in a different way. I'm not quite ready to put them into Super Bowl favorites either. Um, then you got the Chargers. The Chargers, they're back to winning ways, which is great. They've got an incredibly tough closing schedule: Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos. So if they're going to be a playoff team, they're going to earn every bit of it. So we'll see. So I think for now, keeping them in the playoffs makes sense. And the whole playoff team bracket, I don't know that I would really move them even.
Yeah.
I might go something like this, but we'll probably talk about the Bears more moving forward when we get to NFC. So after that, pardon me, Kansas City, it's time, I think, for them to be considered a team that's going to be on the outside looking in. They obviously are not a bad team, but they're not finding ways to win like they have in years past. They also have a pretty tough schedule: Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders. So, that's not as hard as, like, say, the Chargers schedule, but at the same time, they're not proving to be the team that will beat the playoff contenders, the Super Bowl contenders, as often as a lot of other teams are. So I'm a little worried for them for when they play the Texans this week, or the Chargers or the Broncos, who I believe they've already lost to once. Yeah, they have. So the Chiefs, I think, need to be considered on the outside looking in, which is kind of what you could relabel at this point the potential wild card. I think they're playing better than the Steelers. I'm not sure they're playing better than the
Panthers.
Wow, the Panthers right this second. Sorry, I was having real issues with tier list.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah, I'm just not accurate. But yeah, I think that's about right for now. Now, they're going to scare the candy out of some teams, and if they make it to the playoffs, I still think they're a threat because of how they are in the playoffs. But for the moment, they're coming up short a bit too much for comfort. So, I'm comfortable with it. I don't care. I'm kind of tired of them in the Super Bowl, but just looking at them as a team. So then you got the Raiders. I think the Raiders are actually playing themselves down into top 5 pick. So, and as I said when we were talking about the Titans, if the Titans lose one, I think the Raiders are one of the teams that jumps them. I don't know if I'd put them. I guess for the moment, I'll put them in front of the Saints, but it's relatively close. The Saints at least have some plucky every once in a while, but I trust some of the superstars on the Raiders. Mac Crosby, Bowers. So they've at least got those kind of things going for them, but not playing particularly well. They are going to have an interesting offseason. We'll see if they keep Pete Carroll. They're just questions abound. So, what did you think of the AFC West?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's right now. It looks like the Broncos and the Chargers. I would agree with Kansas is at best plateaued. Who knows what they'll do? But I think they're one loss away from, like, hey, they're in trouble. Like, they may miss the playoffs. All like you said, the Chargers. I still don't think I can bring myself to be as much of a believer in the Chargers as other people are. I think they belong right where they are. I think they're a playoff team and all of that. I just can't bring myself yet to buy into them being like one of the highest group of teams. So I like where they are. The Broncos, like you said, they always do these nail-biting games. But I agree they deserve to be up there with the Patriots. I think they've played very similarly. In terms of winning, I think they're very different in their approaches to it, but they've had similar success. So no, I think that the West is, sadly the only intrigue there is teams moving down and separating between the upper echelon teams and lower echelon teams. a little more. But no, I like this. I think that's good.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I could see a world if someone wanted to make this case where they were like the Jags in front of the Chargers or something like that. It's fine. I don't think there's a ton of difference. I feel like the Chargers are exactly here, and the Jags are potentially trending upward. So that would be like the one caveat I'd have to their positioning here. They're kind of on a standstill, but they will get a chance to prove themselves, as we talked about with their schedule closing out. So good times. So yeah, the AFC is pretty fun. It had a little bit of change. I don't feel like it changed as much in 2 weeks as I would have expected. Maybe it went up and down or something like that. Whatever the case was, it still did some fun stuff. So let's get into the NFC and heading up to the North. We've had a new takeover of the NFC North. I think it was new. It wasn't the case 2 weeks ago, I don't believe. We've got, the Chicago Bears have jumped up, and I think they're playing pretty well. And it's a bit surprising to me that, not that they're playing well, but that their run game is working so well. I can't get over this last Eagles game where they put up like almost 300 yards, or maybe it was just over 300 yards. And if they are that complete where they can beat you this way or they can beat you this way and their defense is solid, then they're a real threat moving forward. I have doubts about Caleb Williams, but I guess you could say I have slightly less doubts about Caleb Williams than the average football fan. I don't say the average football fan, than like most people. So, because I'm the average football fan. So I think it makes sense to put them in front of Green Bay. Green Bay is playing a bit more mortal right now. Not playing bad. They have won their last 3 games, and they've been respectable. Well, the Lions are a respectable game. The other 2 being the Vikings and the Giants, with the Vikings falling off. They're still winning their games. So there's not a whole lot of daylight difference between the Packers and the Bears. I just feel like the Bears are doing a little bit better. Both teams are going to get a chance to prove themselves in their last 5 games with relatively tough schedules. So these 2 teams, I mean, you could say they're either spot here. So we will get 2 matchups between these teams between now and the end of the year, which will tell us everything we need to know about who should be in front. But for now, I'll give Chicago the benefit of the doubt. Detroit has been a little bit more down to earth. They've lost 2 of their last 3. They are not really looking like the Detroit of old. Their offense still puts up some points. Their defense is really not towing their weight all the time. And they'll also have a pretty tough closing schedule. So I'm definitely going to bring them down. I'm going to put them right behind the other 2. So I have some faith in the way that they're coached and just the way that they're run, but they're not putting it together as consistently as I'd like. So we'll see what they can do moving forward. It's kind of like the lingering trust I had in the Chiefs for so long. I have a little bit of that. I believe in their culture. So if they can just start flipping, close losses to close wins, they can climb this list again. I certainly don't think that they're out of the mix, but nah. So sorry. Lastly, we got Minnesota, who is in borderline free fall. They're trying to sneak into the top 10 picks. They may have already won too many games to do so, but they are at least playing at this level right now. The return of JJ McCarthy will be a welcome one. We don't need 9 to come back. We just need JJ McCarthy to come back. This team is built right now in such a way that if he turns back into Michigan, JJ McCarthy, that's actually okay. Let the run game do its thing. Manage the game, get you some points, but you don't need to be trying to score 50. And then you've got a really good defense. That's fine. Just go do that. So we'll see. I think they could play themselves back out of top 10 pick, but they are clearly just not right now. So stay healthy, JJ McCarthy. You'll get your team back into at least respectable for the end of the year and make them not regret moving off Sam Darnold maybe as much as they do right now. So what did you think of the North?
I mean, the North is a lot of fun right now, right? I mean, they're all neck and neck. Like I love how you have them lined up here. I think that's perfect. It's just that close. Chicago plays Green Bay, and then 2 weeks later they play Green Bay again. I mean, we're going to learn everything we need to know about this division coming up. The Lions go play the Cowboys, and there's some really good competition in the next 3 games that these teams play. I'm kind of excited to see, like, okay, well, how does this all pan out? Granted, there's always the possibility they split those games and we still don't know who the best is. But yeah, it's a fun division that looks like it's going to be neck and neck as we go forward. One thing of note there is that Green Bay is 3-0 in their division. So that is a huge advantage for them at this point in time against the other two good teams. The Vikings, the Vikings are obviously the Vikings are a very, very frustrating team because they're a very good team with a not great quarterback situation going on. And if they can solve that, if like you just outlined, if JJ McCarthy can figure out what he really is as a quarterback and not try to be anything else, I think they're going to have some real good play the rest of the season. But no, I like where you've got everybody here. I think that this looks solid to me.
Yeah, we'll see. And I do like that regardless of where we have them now, these teams will get a chance to really prove that they belong or don't. So, yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, then why don't you take us out to the NFC East, to your neck of the woods, and tell me what you think of those 14.
Okay, I think the Eagles are the easiest place to start here. They are a mess. I think that a little bit things have stopped running smoothly. This whole, like you were talking about, teams, the Broncos, where teams are winning by one score and it's so close, but they always seem to find a way. That all of a sudden that stopped working for the Eagles. AJ Brown has looked really good these last couple games, and they're still losing. They had 300 yards put up almost running against them by the Bears. There's some problems in Philly, and I think there's a lot of pressure now on that team because for a while there was no competition in the division. Now Dallas is coming back towards them. They've got to pay attention. They've got to compete. It'll be a big game for them against the Chargers coming up this week. I'm actually ready to move them down out of Super Bowl favorites. I know it probably feels wrong since we haven't moved anybody up there, but I'm ready to move them down, sitting somewhere in that group, maybe between the Broncos and the Seahawks. They're a good team. They're in this conversation, but I'm honestly concerned that if they lose this game to the Chargers, that they're going to be in a bad mental space as a team. So we'll see how they handle that. They haven't really had a lot of adversity this season. Now all of a sudden they do. So that was a lot said about the Eagles. Moving past them to Dallas. Dallas beats Kansas City. They're on a pretty hot streak right now. I think let's put them up there with Houston. These two teams are climbers right now. That's fine for now. Let's leave them right there. It's a big game this weekend. If Dallas beats the Lions, then we can really talk about, okay, let's put them up in the wild card kind of area. Selfishly as a Cowboys fan, I'd love to move them up there. And they definitely have a lot of momentum, but let's hold off for one more week, see where we end up. In their big game coming up here. Washington almost beat out Denver. That would have been something. I think when Jaden Daniels comes back to this team, they're going to be dangerous again. They seem like they're getting healthy kind of all around. It's kind of the wrong time of the season for it. But I think they're going to be a dangerous team towards the end of the season that are going to upset somebody, preferably not Dallas. They're going to upset somebody, though, I'm afraid, towards the end of the season once Jaden's back. I think for now, though, I don't think I would move them. Honestly, I'm real close to moving them to the right some. But again, with Jaden coming back, let's see if they can hold on and see where they end up. And then last is the Giants. The Giants finally had like a convincing loss against New England. They always seem to kind of hover around in games, but against the Patriots, they looked overmatched by a long shot. That game was like 30 to nothing or 30 to 7 at half. It was a blowout. So we'll just leave them in the special little spot that they are. That's a bunch of young kids who were injured. So I feel for that team. Also on a note there is that Jackson Dart has got to learn to stop taking needless hits unless he's looking to join Cam on an early vacation.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I've got for the East. Where are you at on that? You think that I'm just being mean to the Eagles?
No, I mean, honestly, the way they're playing right now, they have not scored more than 21 points in the last month. So in a single game, obviously they've scored more than that. But like their offense just isn't working the same. It would seem that it's not just Saquon Barkley, but Saquon Barkley's success is a huge part of what they're doing. I believe they've had some injuries on their offensive line this year that may be taking its toll. Yes, they're getting there's this idea that, okay, you can either have an offense that works or an AJ Brown that works. And for some reason, when you get AJ Brown going, the rest of the offense doesn't work. So like he had 2 touchdowns, I think, this last week, and he was the only 2 touchdowns that they had. So it may have been the week before, but it was just recently. Yeah. So they've got this weird conundrum of things going on where things just aren't working as well as you'd think that they would. To be honest, I'd be slightly meaner. And in fact, this is extra mean. It's kind of mean to me as well. I'd have probably put them behind the Seahawks, but like just been still in front of the Bills. But I'm more scared of the Seahawks than the Eagles right now. But yeah, everyone else, Dallas is climbing, like we've talked about with some other teams that are trending up. You have a path to the playoff. I think it'll be challenging for you to catch the Eagles. The Eagles' closing schedule is Chargers, Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders. So not the toughest closing schedule I've ever heard of. I think that the path to them having 11 wins is not set in stone, but it's likely. But for Dallas to catch one of the wild card spots, one of these teams that's floundering, say like, Detroit, who can't seem to make up their mind or whatever, that is a real possibility. So we'll see. Dallas is doing the right things for this point in time. Tonight's game against Detroit will be a big part of that. So we'll see. For the other 2 teams, the return of Jaden Daniels will be good for them. They've, either Washington or the Giants are going to win at least one more game closing out because they play each other once. But a lot of division games still in front of those 2 teams, I believe, in particular, 4 of their last 5 games, I think, for both teams are division games. So we'll see. But yeah, no, your division is not set in stone completely. I do think the Eagles will probably take it in the end. But we'll see beyond that. So yeah, all right. Well, cool, man. Well, let's go then next to the South, NFC South. And tell me what you think about this set.
Well, Tampa Bay is a quandary. They won their game this week against the Cardinals. It was a close game, which is what the Cardinals do. They do close games. There's another close game, and I'm still concerned, right? Like this should have been the game where it's like, oh no, they're back, they're good to go. They lost to the Bills, they lost to the Rams, they lost to the Patriots. Then they eke out a win against the Cardinals, and it's like, well, are they really sitting in this Super Bowl contenders category still? And if so, why? I think I would have to move them behind Green Bay at this point in time. I think this is kind of the group. In fact, I'm scared for them if they play any of these 3 teams. The Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit. They have another get-right kind of game this week against the Saints. They're going to need to get right. Whatever is going on. They've got to figure some stuff out, keep getting healthy, all that good stuff this week. So then they go play the Falcons, Panthers twice. I mean, that's the big one. Yeah. And that, I think, is the big thing, is the Panthers in themselves. I love the Panthers. I mean, I like Baker, but I've really enjoyed the Panthers and what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're just kind of scrappy. They're a scrappy kind of team, and I enjoy that. I think that this will be – I don't think that I can move them anywhere. They're right behind the Bucks. They're going to play the Bucks a couple times here still before the end of the season, so they could be right here in the playoff teams group. They're not a team to overlook, but I think right now I'm still in the let's keep them here in potential wild card. The Falcons are still floating around out there. They did lose to the Jets, so there is that. So I don't think I can really move them much of anywhere. One could make the argument to move them to the left 1 or 2, but I just think right now let's just chill. I'm not sure what they're doing. Last up are the Saints. The Saints are right where they should be, and I think this is a good spot for them. Again, I know nobody wants to hear this about their team. I think we are seeing improvement. I think Tyler is he's making progress. Like he's some games he's playing better. I think that he's making good plays in a lot of spots. So there's definitely positives for Saints fans to take out of that, I think. But this, I think, is where you want to end up, is in this top 5 pick kind of consideration towards the end of the year anyway. And they're in the. I mean, really, they are very much in the running for first pick. If Tennessee figures it out for a game and wins one, they can wind up right there. So yeah, that's kind of what I see for the NFC South. Any big changes, or what would you move?
I don't know that I'd move any of them. Pardon me. For Tampa, there are definitely teams in that line of playoff teams that I mean, easily more scared of than Tampa right this second. I know they just beat my Cardinals, but that's not the kudos that someone might think it is. Carolina's probably playing as the better team right now, but they're also kind of on again, off again. I think of their last 6 games, they've just won then lost and won then lost and won then lost. So like they can't seem to make up their mind. But we'll see. Winning over the Rams was huge. I certainly enjoyed it. And hopefully they can continue to force some turnovers and play, more consistently and such. So we'll see. As you pointed out, they're going to get their chance against Tampa to close out the year twice. So that could be good. For the other teams, the Saints probably do belong right where they are. It's, they did just beat Atlanta just recently. No, that's wrong. I apologize. I had that backwards. I was looking at it and I'm just staring at it, and it was like, no, I had it backwards. The Falcons beat the Saints. Pardon me. And the Falcons are kind of interesting. Their last 5 games, 4 of them were 1-score games, and we're talking 1-score games with the Patriots, the Colts, the Panthers, and they lost to the Jets, so that one's a little less pretty. They're kind of playing like the Cardinals a little bit, and then of course that other game is they beat the Saints. So they are capable of competing, but they're not closing out, which again sounds a lot like my stupid Cardinals. So they're at least entertaining. I am a little worried about matching up against them. Their closing schedule being the Seahawks, Bucks, Cardinals, Rams, Saints is fairly tough, but I do think they'll win at least one of those games closing out. So there's a good chance that they'll climb out of top 10 picks. But yeah, for the moment, I think leaving them where they are makes enough sense. So yeah, okay. Well, if you're ready, let's go out and finish up with the West.
Let's do it.
Good times. We get to wrap up an idea here, which is I don't really think there's a Super Bowl favorite. In years past, we just had this juggernaut team, or for early parts of this season, I was like, man, this team just looks unbeatable. This team just looks awesome. Right this second, I don't think there's really a Super Bowl favorite. Like, yep, that's the team that's going to win it all. And y'all can just deal with it. Even the Rams. The Rams are still playing pretty well, coming off this weird loss to the Panthers where they turned the ball over 3 times. It kind of looks like a team where, I don't know, they were just mortal, right? And I don't know that I'd view them much of any higher than say, so I'm going to move them down. They might still be the best team in the country, but it's not. I don't want to make some obvious distinction between them and everyone else, because I don't really think they're much, if any, better than, say, the Patriots or the Broncos in particular. I mean, they beat Seattle by 2 points, I believe, when Seattle lost to the turnover battle 4-0. So I really don't think there's a whole lot of separation between them and the rest of this pack. And then Seattle, similarly, like they've mostly been really good. Sam Darnold, he's obviously not playing as well as he did last year, but he is still playing well, and he's got probably an even more complete team than he did last year with Minnesota. It's not by a lot. I think Minnesota had a great roster last year, but Seattle, their defense is just deadly. They're going to win a lot of their closing games. They get a couple of good tests. They'll still play the Colts. They play the Rams again and the Niners, but after that, they've got the Falcons and the Panthers, and I'll be rooting for all of those teams every single time. But, they've got a very winnable closing schedule. So I think that they're going to be duking it out to win the actual NFC West. So we'll see. But after that, you got the Niners. The Niners going into a bye this week. They had the super late bye. But they're still playing well. And no one seems to be able to explain exactly why. I think we still have it in our head that the Niners are a defensive team. That's what they are. And they're not really playing like a particularly exceptional defense this year. Like they're fine. They do the bend but don't break particularly well, and that's good. And then their offense has been the key to their victories. So they're going to keep on winning some games. They played well within the division as well, if memory serves. They lost the one at least to the Rams, but they've still got a really good shot, actually, of winning this division, which is weird after just talking about Super Bowl contenders with the Rams and the Seahawks. But the Niners are still there. They're not going anywhere. They're getting pretty healthy. and they'll get their chance. They'll get their chance to close out the year. So we'll see. It could be fun. My Cardinals have done the exact thing we've been doing, and we know who we are. We are a team that competes but does not win. I don't think we're going to climb into the top 5 pick contention. I think we'll stay between 6 and 10. Mathematically, we'll probably find a way to win a game somewhere. I just don't know where. We don't match up particularly well against the teams that we're going to close against. So we'll see. But yeah, I think we're still just playing like a top 10 pick kind of team. So I'd probably put the Falcons just in front of us, to be completely honest. That was one thing I meant to do when we talked about the NFC South, was I think they're playing slightly better than we are, which is not much of a compliment, but it's something. So that's about the only thing I would do. Yeah, other than that, the NFC West is a lot of competitive teams, and the Cardinals. What did you think of the West?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so neck and neck in that division, and they just kind of step on each other, but not enough so that anyone comes out a clear favorite. It is strange that I'm least scared of San Francisco, but I probably shouldn't be. Like, if they're 4-1 in their division, going to your point. Yeah. So they kind of own that division in some ways. Somebody's going to need to beat them. Actually, probably everyone's going to need to beat them in that division for them not to be considered in somewhere there. But it's the other. I mean, the Rams at moments, they do look unbeatable. And it's that whole thing about they just don't make mistakes. But we got to see when they do make mistakes, it's big. Like, they do not survive that well. So we'll see what they do kind of going in. Or do they pick back up their momentum, or do they fall off? There's a lot of positive momentum in this group. So, no, I agree with your 3 there with Los Angeles, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. And then with the Cardinals, it is fun. They're a very strange and frustrating team, as you're well aware. They're on pace right now to score the same number of points roughly as the Eagles. It's just the Eagles have in the close games, the Eagles have found a way to win. That's it. Like, that's really the differentiator. So they're a good team. They're not a team that people should overlook. I'm kind of hoping sorry, that's probably not what you want to hear. I was going to say, I'm kind of hoping they sneak out a couple wins here towards the end of the season and hurt somebody in that division a little bit, just to provide some separation. But yeah, I think that they're probably in the right spot down there, depending upon what Jaden Daniels does, if and or when he comes back. I mean, I could see the Cardinals being a better team than either the Vikings or the Commanders potentially. But no, I like them right where they are for now. Yeah. So no, I think this is good.
Yeah, it's great. I love everything about it.
I get it.
So, all right. Well, excellent. Well, cool. Well, then this will wrap things up. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. This is our Power Rankings after 2 weeks. We're going into Week 14. Tonight, we've got Dallas and Detroit, so we'll get even more clarity in the very, very near future. We'll try to get this video out before that game starts. But regardless. So, yeah, thanks for everyone for joining us. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers. We're having a lot of fun, so we'd appreciate it if you give us a like and subscribe. Tell us in the comments how you think your team is doing, if you think we're underrepresenting or overrepresenting any team in here. We love getting in those comments, and there's things that we miss as we're going through this, and it was just don't have time to get into every team as deep as we would like. So let us know what you think in the comments. Come join us again sometime. We'll be back to do Power Rankings again next week. And until that time, I hope that you have a fantastic day.